Chapter 1473. Bojo thought about it. It didn't stop her from changing. Those who hadn't seen it would probably find it hard to imagine such a scene. Even in the crowd. She could casually grab the hat from the other party's head and put it on her own head. Then, she flipped her trench coat and put it back on. It was another style. A quick disguise wasn't something every hacker could do. As the young lord, Bojo seemed to have an innate talent in disguise. Eric was still holding the bomb in his hand. It was about to explode in 5 seconds. He shut his eyes tightly. He could only pray to God now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bang! An explosion rang out from the crowd. There was a sound, but it wasn't the least bit lethal. Instead, there were colorful stripes floating in the air. Ari was scared to the point of losing half of his life. The bomb was still singing. Then, a certain person's voice that was hard to distinguish between a man and a woman could be heard. It was lazy and magnetic. Old friend, happy holidays. Happy my foot. Eric reached out to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. He had to admit that the Almighty was really amazing. If it had been anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to confirm that it was a fake bomb in such a short period of time. The Almighty really knew Z well. Bojo didn't like this feeling. She tried to be mischievous, but it didn't work. She could imagine how she felt. When did such a person appear at the police station? It wasn't fun at all. Bojo narrowed her eyes. Her mole flashed and she separated from the crowd. She was almost at the entrance of the alley. Once she entered, little Blackie would be there to receive her. But at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared behind her. Bojo reacted quickly. She realized that someone was getting close. Her long legs flew over instinctively. The curve of her body was handsome. There was a sound of wind when she flung her leg out. But the opponent's skills weren't bad either. He reached out to block her attack. His figure was slender and elegant. From this angle, Bojo couldn't see the person's face clearly. She could only see the outline. That pair of eyes was too distracting. How could he have such eyes? They were black, but they seemed to be hidden in the galaxy. If it wasn't for the special situation, she would have stopped to admire them. Unfortunately, it wasn't just the wrong time. This person was dangerous. She was in the dark. He is blind. Under the light, she could only see the curve of his chin. He seemed to have said something. She wasn't sure if she had heard wrongly. Come back with me. What? Bojo frowned. She wanted to listen more carefully since the surroundings were too noisy. Hoshino's voice came through the earpiece. Z, the police have gone to your place. He couldn't be distracted by beauty anymore. The police HQ was probably enlightened all of a sudden. She actually sent such a person to use a honey trap on her. This was the first time Bojo had encountered such a crisis. He turned around again, wanting to kick the man's arm away. She didn't expect that person to move faster than her. His aura was very sharp and noble. Compared to her, he even had an orthodox education. This person wasn't from the police station. A soldier? A thought flashed through his mind. Bojo didn't think too much about it. When she heard the approaching sirens, she spun and tugged on the double buttons of her trench coat. That person seemed to know what she wanted to do. Chapter 1474. It was probably because of their positions. At this moment, Bojo's trench coat was thrown onto the ground. She was only left with the white shirt. Chin Mo wanted to grab her, but unexpectedly, because she turned her body, he touched a piece of softness. His fingers paused and he forgot what he was going to do next. Bojo arched a brow. She took advantage of the moment when the other party let his guard down and escaped. She kicked the thing beside her and dashed forward. The Lamborghini with smooth lines drew an arc and a beautiful tail. Bojo reached out and grabbed the car door tightly. Then she turned and sat in the main driver's seat. Speed up. Yes, master. The intelligence system switched from automatic to semi-automatic. The road map appeared. The green one was smooth and the red one was congested. There was also a three-dimensional map of the building. Bojo closed the sunroof and turned the steering wheel with one hand. She made a 180-degree turn and used her cool driving skills to shake off the police cars that were following her. The sky darkened. When Chin Mo paused just now, he understood one thing. It was very likely that he wouldn't be able to stop that person. The information he received was wrong. Z was indeed used to going around alone. But that didn't mean that Z didn't have any helpers. Chin Mo recalled the male voice in the crowd just now. His fingers felt cold from the wind. At this moment, Eric ran over. He was panting heavily. He saw that Chin Mo was the only one left at the end of the long alley. He knew that Z hadn't been caught again. This is already considered very good. At least we didn't have to wait until the news came out the next day. Also, Z's operation this time isn't considered successful. Look at the time. It's different from the notice he gave previously. Everyone knows that Z always means what he says. This time, with you around, he can't be so arrogant. Eric's words weren't comforting. He was thinking that if they did it again, with the Almighty around, they would definitely be able to catch Z. Chin Mo tilted his head and said faintly, Z, it's a girl. MMH? Eric's eyes widened in disbelief. What did you say? Chin Mo glanced up. He didn't repeat himself, but he was just so casual. It made him more convincing. Eric was already in a mess. Although the Almighty had previously analyzed that a person wearing a leather jacket and driving a motorcycle wasn't necessarily a guy. But that was Z. No matter what. He was the king of hackers who fascinated the citizens of Fifth Avenue. It was actually a girl? He was right. There were indeed powerful female hackers. But under normal circumstances, they were very cute and innocent, so no one would suspect them. Moreover, many people knew that their results could be seen on the hacker rankings. Only Z. This person had never achieved anything. However, he had a unique position in the hacker world. It seemed impossible to surpass. Eric had sent people to investigate, but they couldn't find anything. The only result he got was that young master. The person who was known as the young master should be a man, right? Moreover, Z's style of doing things and the figure in the trench coat that she occasionally revealed were all so handsome. It didn't look like a girl at all. This was too important. Eric had to confirm. Chin, how are you so sure that Z is a girl? Chapter 1475. Bojo, who was driving the Lamborghini through the traffic, seemed a little different from before. The navigation system adjusted automatically, reflecting her emotions. Master, through the seat cushion, it is telling me that your heartbeat isn't right. Did you run too fast just now? It had to be said that Little Black's question came at the wrong time. This was the first time Bojo's chest was touched by someone, and it was a stranger. Something seemed strange. She reached out and tugged her collar, maintaining her suave and devilish demeanor. Shut up. Little Blackie didn't understand. What was wrong with it being concerned about its master? Bojo's face was still warm. She wound down the car window and reached out. Her black hair was blown into a mess. Gradually, the androgynous face became clearer under the moonlight. In order to not leave any traces, she had to remove the black feather mask on her face. There weren't any police cars around. This meant that it was absolutely safe. But Bojo didn't let her guard down. She drove the car to the black and blue phone booth. Then she pressed the black watch on her wrist. There was a loud crash. The shape of the phone booth changed, forming a circular arch. Bojo drove the car in. There was a person sitting there, holding a cup of coffee in his hands. He was wearing a pure white sweater. He tilted his head, looking at the moonlight outside. His figure was tall and slender, his side profile fair and handsome. When he heard the sound, he glanced over. You're back. I almost couldn't make it back. Bojo held onto the car door with both hands and jumped out. Her landing posture was suave. When she turned back to look at him, her eyes lit up. This group of people knows how to use the honey trap on me. How despicable, don't you think so, Hoshino? Hoshino chuckled when he heard that. He thought of the elegant figure he saw on the street before. You like that type? It's alright, pure. Bojo took a can of chocolate milk and held it in her mouth. Her eyes were dark. It's a pity I couldn't see his face clearly. Hoshino took a sip of coffee. He doesn't have much to do with the purity you speak of. Even if the person was wearing a school uniform, as long as he stood there, he would give off an oppressive feeling. How unfathomable was he? Regarding the fact that Z had used the word pure on him, Lin Sanjiu was shocked. Hoshino was just listening. After all, only Z would think that way. But the more Bojo thought about it, the more she felt that she was right. After finishing a can of milk, she threw it aside casually. It was a handsome move. Then she glanced back. This is the first time someone intercepted me like this. Hoshino understood. I will investigate his identity. Indeed, we should investigate. Where did the police find such a person? His calculation skills are so strong, even his skills. Bojo paused, popping a chocolate bean into her mouth. A Chinese soldier, seems like it won't be easy to investigate. When Hoshino heard that, his fingers paused. You fought before? Bojo leaned back casually. Hoshino frowned. Are you hurt anywhere? I'm not hurt, but... Bojo paused and smiled. It's nothing, let's fight again and see who he is. Chapter 1476. Bojo wanted to investigate Qin Mo wanted to find Z even more. Even though the lingering sensation on his fingers affected Almighty Qin's thoughts. But something in his nature hadn't changed. From 90% to 99%, he could confirm that it was that person. In the bathroom, Qin Mo looked at his palm. His thoughts were still wandering, but it didn't affect his calculations. He could confirm that his little tiger had grown up. He couldn't help but smile when he realized what he was thinking about. Qin Mo's ears turned red. In the end, he laughed softly. Eric stood outside, holding the latest information. He wanted to show it to the Almighty. Perhaps it would give him some inspiration. The environment back then wasn't like now. Alright, this had nothing to do with the environment. It was the hotel that Eric found. The soundproofing wasn't good. Eric couldn't understand. Could it be that people with high intelligence were different from them? Their way of relieving stress was to be happy in the bathroom? What was the Almighty so happy about? Just as Eric was about to make a guess, the bathroom door opened. Qin Mo walked out. There was a white towel on his black hair. The tip of his hair was still dripping water. His smooth mermaid lines were smooth. Even Eric, a man, was stunned. Wait a minute. Wasn't the Almighty a high school student? When he wore his school uniform, he looked fair and cold. He looked like a harmless prince. Why did he look like a different person without his school uniform? He had to admit that the school uniform in China was a good thing. After wearing it, it gave off a different feeling. As for which feeling it was up to the person who wore it. But Qin Mo was different from others. If there was anything that had changed, it would probably be the innate aura of a king. Now, it was completely released. Eric was shocked by the aura and didn't know what to do. Qin Mo threw the towel aside. He casually grabbed a black t-shirt and wore it. His gaze was deep. What did you find? Eric passed the information in his hands over. Qin Mo's slender and fair fingers flipped through the information quickly. His elegant and handsome side profile wasn't affected by the water droplets. Once again, Eric witnessed what it meant to read 10 lines at a glance. Qin Mo didn't just read quickly. More importantly, he could remember everything after reading it. His light-colored eyes seemed to be able to reflect those words. From the perspective of inference. Add in the areas where the criminal often committed the crime and some of the more subtle areas of activity. He would be able to calculate where the other party lived. If he were her. No, that's not right. He could not empathize with her. According to a certain someone's character of being mischievous in everything. It was possible that she had deliberately left some traces behind. Therefore, he had to distinguish which marks were real and which marks were left behind after being naughty. With this in mind, Chin Mo flipped through the stack of documents again. It was obvious that this time, what he saw was targeted. Fine discrimination and curve analysis. Many people say that reasoning is based on psychology. There was nothing wrong with that. However, advanced reasoning would definitely include mathematical calculations. Anyone who had seen the dedication of Suspect X would know that Stone God was the best example. Geniuses were often lonely. Not many people knew that mathematics was not that simple. Chapter 1477. It was as though a 3D map appeared in his mind. Suddenly, Chin Mo opened his eyes. His gaze landed on the map of Fifth Avenue. His eyes lit up. I found it. MMH? Eric had never seen the Almighty like this. Chin Mo's voice was still calm. The gray area of the entire street, the gathering place of all the underground workers, Seoul Return Street. Seoul Return Street was what the internet called it. Of course, this was the Chinese translation. Make such an analogy. It referred to the boundary between light and darkness. You would be able to see people from any industry there. Eric frowned. Would Z live in such a place? The conditions aren't good. Z should be quite rich. Someone calculated Z's assets previously. Of course she was rich. Every person that Z sent to prison would be taken over. Z would take over all of their assets. Hence, what that scumbag said was right. Z's money wasn't clean. However, there was something strange. Some people didn't live in poverty and would receive a sum of money instead. Z never gave money to the beggars on the streets. Eric felt that he still couldn't understand Z's thinking. Hence, he asked Chin Mo about this. Chin Mo glanced at him. There's nothing hard to understand. The money belongs to her. She can give it to whoever she wants. What I mean is, why doesn't Z give money to the beggars on the streets? He didn't understand. Chin Mo's voice was calm. Homeless people with 4 limbs. Most of them are middle-aged. Funding is for those in need and those who know how to be grateful. Those who don't know how to be grateful will complain if you give them something for nothing. This is funding, not raising a demon. Those who don't have money aren't necessarily weak. There are also those who lie on the ground and pretend to be beggars. They take other people's things for granted. This has nothing to do with education, age, or background. Hence, funding to families won't be based on rich or poor. Instead, it depends on whether the other party is worthy or needy. These matters should be handled by another person. Another person? Eric looked up. You mean Z isn't acting alone? Chin Mo analyzed deeply. She must be acting alone. The impression Z gives off is that she acts alone. Even she what? Eric didn't understand why the Almighty didn't continue. However, as he stood in front of the large French window, his handsome face, which was accompanied by the starlight, had some other emotions. Chin Mo didn't finish his sentence. She was destined to have no close friends around her. He wanted to be a good Z. He had to learn to disguise himself first. He had to keep his distance from everyone so that he wouldn't be noticed. Because once you get too familiar with someone, you'll definitely lose your mind. Emotions come into being. As the young master of hackers, he couldn't use his emotions to do things. With great power came great responsibility. Because if they were not careful, they would implicate the people around them. Chin Mo lifted his head, his gaze landing on the moving cars. His heart ached. The things he was thinking about. This did not happen to his little tiger. Ever since the Bo family had moved, no one had asked her if she wanted to eat sweets. Just thinking about it. Chin Mo's side profile melted into the shadows. This made Ari a little confused. At this moment, Eric's phone rang. The caller ID was an unknown number. Chapter 1478. All of a sudden, Eric's eyes widened. His right hand froze. His first reaction was, "Why do you have my number? Is it strange that I can even find the number of the people in the police station?" Bo Jio sat on the chair. She wore her earphones on her messy hair. "You guys are really smart now. You actually learned how to use the honey trap on me." "Heh. But Eric, I'm afraid even you haven't figured out the other party's background." Eric's expression was probably too special. Chin Mo, who was standing by the window, retracted his gaze and placed it on his face. Eric wanted to say something, but the person on the other end laughed again. "The honey trap is not bad. I will look for him." The moment he finished speaking, the sound of the phone being cut was heard. Next, Eric met the Almighty's cold gaze. He automatically said, "It's Z." In that instant, Chin Mo lowered his gaze. It was as though there were waves crashing. Even though he knew that the other party was probably using an internet phone and couldn't be traced, he still didn't want to give up. In the end, his fingers gripped the phone. His back view seemed a little lonely. This was even more so after he reached Seoul Return Street. Because the clues were broken. Admittedly, no matter how accurate the inference was, it didn't seem to be of much use on Z. Or rather, after 3 days of investigation, Chin Mo had a clear feeling that she was no longer here. Chin Mo's feeling was right. Bo Jio was indeed no longer here. She had grown so big. After becoming the young lord of the hackers, Bo Jio knew what she had to do. It was better to try less things that she was interested in. Especially those good-looking geniuses. The small towns in Europe were all very peaceful. Even though there was an ancient castle there. The ancient castle seemed to have some history. In the courtyard, the butler dressed in a tuxedo was trimming the branches and leaves of the trees. He had a snow-white beard, but his face gave off a gentlemanly charm. Occasionally, he would glance at the pocket watch in his hand. Young Lord came back at night. Just like every other time. He wouldn't come back often unless it was on this day. March 13th. The true identity of the hackers was discovered once again. After Master left, he never came back. Ever since that day, young Lord was different. The butler lifted his eyes and looked at the figure standing under the tree. Other than him, no one knew what the young master was thinking. Because she was handing out candy to the kids at the ranch. Only when young master was around would the children come over. The young master sat there with his head raised. No one knew if he was looking at the sky or something else. A child asked, "Bo, why do you always like to bring us sweets?" Bo Jio didn't reply. She smiled devilishly. "This question is more complicated. It's probably because I want someone to carry a piece of candy with them one day. Do you have it with you?" The children's eyes were wide open, as clear and beautiful as the blue sea and sky. "MMH, Bo Jio replied, still smiling. "It would be even more blissful if I could just take it out from my pocket." Wow. The children were also looking forward to it, and their saliva was swirling. Back then, she had never expected her wish to come true. So there really was such a person in this world. Regardless of whether he was wearing a combat uniform or a military uniform, or even camouflage during training. Chapter 1479. The most regretful thing in this world was missing out. Because she didn't trust anyone anymore, Bo Jio hid herself. But at the same time, Chin Mo didn't find any more information about Z. It was as if she had evaporated overnight. Some of the townsfolk were even wondering if Z had ever existed. Chin Mo had thought of looking for clues. Most of the clues were fake, but he didn't give up. He dug bit by bit. But he had never thought about it. He cared too much about what happened to a person. Something else would happen. This was probably what people called the butterfly effect. Because the person who placed his attention on him would definitely think of a perfect plan. Starting from what he cared about would achieve the best effect. Hence, a plan slowly unfolded. First, Fan Jia came. Everyone knew what had happened. Her thoughts didn't come to fruition. Qin Mo was still the same Qin Mo. But this was the first step of the hypnosis. It was also the first step for the other party to confirm that Z was able to break through Qin Mo. No matter what Qin Mo did, there would be more in the future. Hence, a month later, at the border crossing, news about Z appeared again. Bo Jiao went there. Qin Mo went there too. But Bo Jiao went first. And Qin Mo went after she left. Someone gave Bo Jiao a clue about Mr. Bo. Hence, she came over and had some impulsive thoughts. She probably didn't expect that the video of her jumping into the sea would be recorded and edited again. She just had to wait for that person to come. To the other party. To Qin Mo, the difficulty of carrying out the mission was very high. Compared to using weapons, psychological warfare was the key. When he sneaked into the location, he understood what he would encounter this time. Rescuing the hostages was the first task. But he didn't know who to rescue. Or rather, he couldn't differentiate the level of hypnosis. That mission was as described previously. No one wanted to carry it out. It wasn't just complicated. It would defeat people. At the start, Qin Mo hid very well. After all, he knew what the other party wanted to do. Then, he saw the search information left on the computer. Then, he understood that these people were also looking for the person he was looking for. And they seemed to have gotten the answer. Even some clues were from when he was at Fifth Avenue. Because he had investigated too deeply, they were able to conclude that Z wasn't a man but a woman. These were all based on his previous analysis. The other party even noticed this. Mr. Bo making use of Mr. Bo's information would attract Z's attention. If Z was her, she would definitely come here. After Qin Mo realized this, he couldn't devote all his attention to the next mission. Even if he knew that he was going to face someone who could plant a seed in his heart. Once the seed was planted, it would take root and sprout. If he had a psychological problem, he shouldn't have continued. Under such circumstances, there was no way he could defeat his opponent. Qin Mo leaned against the wall. His black hair was still messy. No matter what logic told him, it wouldn't work. But at that point, he didn't have much time to think. The only thing he could think of was that the information he had obtained from the fifth path had allowed the other party to find clues about her. It was probably the same mentality. In the end, everything was over. When Qin Mo saw the video, he was thinking while he was soaking in the river. He did not reach out to stop her. It was he who did not reach out to hold her back. It was all because of him. Chapter 1480. When they found Qin Mo, he was sitting on the ground with an obvious injury on his wrist. The mission was completed. He had successfully killed the leader of the enemy. But that day, Qin Mo's fever didn't subside. Hence, a portion of the members had escaped. Fan Jia had been taken away by Kawang. To him, his dead student had done a perfect job. It wasn't easy to plant a seed in Qin Mo's heart. At the same time, the fact that he had lost his beloved student made his gaze turn cold. Qin Mo had woken up on the plane. When he had woken up, he seemed normal, but some of his memories seemed to have disappeared. Were all people like this? The more one cared, the more likely it was to form an inner demon. No matter how old one grew, they couldn't be invincible because they would always care about what they cared about. At first, no one noticed Qin Mo's state. Even movie Queenan was the same. She was just worried about the injury on her son's wrist. Gradually, Qin Mo seemed to have forgotten a lot of things. including why he hadn't taken a look at the photo of him when he had met the family. Or perhaps, he had forgotten the reason he had named his cat Princess. It was because someone had once treated him as a princess. He had forgotten all of this. Old Masterin was the one with the deepest senses. But the doctor had advised him not to touch the things hidden in his heart. If he did so, his mental state would collapse quickly. This was especially true for a profiler like Chin Mo. If he hadn't been so smart or had such a strong deductive ability, perhaps he wouldn't have ended up like this. But because he understood it too well, he couldn't walk out of it. The only thing old Masterin could find that was similar to when he had been young was the amulet hanging around his neck. As for the rest, there was nothing else. He had even forgotten why he wanted to play games. There wasn't anything bad about this. But every time old Masterin thought about it, he would feel terrible. When Bojio returned to Fifth Avenue, she realized that the person who had used the honey trap on her wasn't here anymore. That was all she could understand. She didn't know that someone had gone through so much to find her. Smith was right. Z's existence. It wasn't allowed. In this world, there was a balance between them. If someone appeared and broke this balance, they were destined to reach the end. After Kawang took over the organization, he kept quiet for a period of time. Then he started to follow the previous clues and sift through them bit by bit. In the end, he found the hacker's breakthrough point. The biggest taboo for a hacker is to lose their privacy. It wasn't as if such a method had never been used before. Because he cared too much. When the method that destroyed her family appeared once again, that was why Bojio burrowed in. She didn't even think about what the other party wanted. When she arrived at the location, that was the beginning of everything. Kawang's analysis of psychology. It was impossible for others to guard against. He knew how to do one thing in several steps. That was why people fell into it. In fact, people who loved candy always had a naive side hidden in their hearts. Kawang was clear. On the other hand, Bojio wasn't sure what she thought might not be as comprehensive as she thought. Hence, a little girl holding a balloon became Z's most fatal blow. Many people had told her not to turn completely black. It turned out that there were no weaknesses and no pain when it was completely black. It was a street that no one went to look at, even though there were many people coming and going. No one saw the bleeding wound under the windbreaker she was wearing. Bojio even thought that everything was finally over. All the loneliness that no one understood. She didn't need to continue. This way, she could go and see her parents. Chapter 1481. But there was such a magical thing in the world. It was also at that moment. The Buddhist words in the amulet emitted a faint light for some reason. Maybe there really was such a person. Even if he forgot you, didn't remember your appearance, didn't remember your voice, and didn't even remember your name. But when he looked into your eyes again, he could still touch your soul. What you were like. No matter who said it, it couldn't be shaken. You just stood there. At the border of black and white. Even if you were muddle-headed and there wasn't a single clean spot on your body, he would still treat you differently. Because he understood you more than he understood himself. Because he loved you more than himself. He had been standing there, cleaner than everyone else. He was like a bright lamp, standing at the most obvious place. Not for any reason. But because, after searching for so many years, he still lost you. If that was the case, could you find me? A little more time passed. Until that pair of eyes that were as dark as the night opened again on September 28th. A devilish smile appeared on his handsome face. A Z imprint appeared on a completely different body. The gears of fate began to spin again. Z was back. Similarly, the little tiger that belonged to him was back too. It didn't matter if he forgot what light was. It didn't matter if he wanted to become completely black. There was someone who had always been here, using his unique method to wait for the person in his hands. Hamburgers should be paired with cola. That's better. Chin Mo glanced down and helped her roll up her sleeves. Chin Mo glanced down and helped her roll up her sleeves. My mom. Chin Mo glanced down and helped her roll up her sleeves. Bo Jio replied, oh. She didn't know what she was thinking. Anyway, she was happy with something in her heart. Oh, Bo Jio replied. He didn't know what she was thinking, but she was happy to have something in her heart. He should have said it long ago. She trusted Grandfather Butler's etiquette skills. He should have said it long ago. She trusted Grandfather Butler's etiquette skills. Now, only little Princess Mo didn't know about this. This way, she could naturally bring him to the proposal venue. Then, she would very romantically show him what she had prepared. Everything was perfect. This was simply one of the classic tricks used by an overbearing CEO to woo his little secretary. There was no pressure for her at all. Bo Jio smiled devilishly. Follow me somewhere? Chin Mo, who already knew, arched a brow. Where? Chin Group Club. After Bo Jio finished eating, she tilted her head lazily. That isn't a bad spot. I heard Zhao Sanpang and the others are doing an interview at the television station opposite today. Chin Mo wanted to ask what this had to do with his proposal. But if he asked, it would be less interesting. He replied calmly with his side profile. Bo Jio was still thinking about the surprise she would give little Princess Chin later. It would definitely be enough for him to marry her. The more he thought about it, the more obvious his smile became. There is such a thing as being alone and enjoying oneself. Bo Jio had never done it before. Now that his arm was placed over the window, his eyes were looking out of the window. It was a very handsome posture. That face that was reflected in the window was full of moles and a wanton smile. He was like a child who had finally gotten candy. Of course, he wanted to be happy for a while. Chin Mo didn't want to laugh, but seeing her like this, he couldn't help but ask, are you that happy? Really? Bo Jio's devilish smile was still there. You must have eaten something you like. Chin Mo freed a hand and placed it on her head. Idiot. Chapter 1482. 8:30 p.m. It wasn't early or late. The overtime workers hadn't even returned home. Especially in a city like Jiang City that didn't sleep. Some of them had just arrived at their seats. Some of them were playing with their children in the plaza. Bo Jio felt that as a domineering CEO, the proposal couldn't be kept a low profile. That was why she had chosen such a time point. Especially when she heard that the main members of Xiangnan were going to be interviewed. She felt that this was a good opportunity. Since she had prepared beforehand, she decided to do it now. Hence, she turned her attention to the Chin Group's building. Under normal circumstances, it would be easy for her to hack into a company's network. But this time, she paid for it. After all, she was going to propose. She transferred a sum of money to the Chin Group in advance and then carried out a small hack. It was all to obtain the control of the building. It had to be said that the person who designed the building had good foresight. There was a corresponding light on each layer of glass. Even at night, it would be easy to see. If that was the case, it would be easy for a hacker to do something. As long as she learned how to control the circuit, everything wouldn't be a problem. Bo Jio stood there, wearing Chin Mo's jacket. It was a dark-colored trench coat, looking exceptionally handsome. Chin Mo watched as a certain someone raised her hand and was about to climb over the wall. He pulled her back, his gaze calm. What are you doing? You're so short. Bo Jio smiled brightly. With a push of one hand, she connected the small laptop outside to the prepared USB flash drive. Chin Mo swept her a glance, asking even though he knew the answer, what are you doing? A lighter. Bo Jio pointed to the side, a silver lighter lying in her palm. If it had been any other time, with Chin Mo's sharp tongue, he would have exposed her long ago. She had hidden the lighter in her sleeves, how could he not see it? But it all depended on her. He would let her do whatever she wanted. Bojo realized that little Princess Mo was exceptionally easy to talk to today. She had to seize the opportunity to propose. Brother Mo, wait here for a while. Bojo ran towards the left. She was wearing a dark-colored trench coat, her silver hair a little messy. Chin Mo watched as a certain someone squatted down. It was probably her first time doing such a thing and she wasn't very familiar with it. She tilted her head, her face serious as though she was lighting something up. Then, she raised her head, tilted her eyes, and smiled brightly at him. At that moment, smoke rose. The lights of the city seemed to be reflected in her black eyes. Chin Mo understood. This person is putting her favorite things in front of you to please you. Her face was still stained with the dust that she had just rubbed against, and there was even some axe chi on her body. But that did not change the way she looked in his eyes. If I had to describe it. She walked through thousands of galaxies, stepped on the dust on the ground, and stopped in front of you with her hands stained with dirty things. What you can feel is not how dirty she is. Instead, she was little Bojo. She was his. Chin Mo reached out to pull her into his arms. Who would have thought that at this time, the highlight of the show would truly come? Behind her, the entire Chin Corporation's building suddenly lit up. Only one row of boxes was darkened. Between the light and the dark, only 6 words were formed. Chapter 1483. Chin Mo, marry me. Since it was a lighting image, with the help of fireworks, the words weren't unchanging. The 6 words were not unchanging. Instead, they were like a slideshow, like the petals of a rose that had bloomed and gathered together. It was as though a small game had been designed on the surface of the building. The children in the square lifted their heads, their eyes wide as they asked curiously, "Mommy, what is that?" That. The mother paused, momentarily forgetting to reply, her eyes still filled with shock. Not to mention the couple strolling by the side. The girl was envious, reaching out to cover her lips, sighing. If there was a guy who treated me like that, I would definitely marry him. With that, she tilted her head, sweeping a glance at her boyfriend. The boy held the candied hawthorn in his hands. His first reaction was, F***ck, which brother came up with this, wasting so much time and effort, how could he live? But after half a second, he realized a problem. Wifey, go away, who's your wifey? The girl narrowed her eyes, unhappy. No, I mean, think about it, just think about it, which girl is called Chin Mo? The boy argued. The girl stilled. She really hadn't thought about it. The words didn't disappear. Half a second later, it became brighter, so beautiful it was hard to ignore. Opposite the building was the interview stage. There were obviously people there. The Xiangnan team came out of the interview room. Someone was chatting with the manager. Xiangnan's manager was different from Supreme Alliance's. He was a middle-aged man who would smile at anything, like a Maitreya Buddha. Zhao Sanpang had been listening to their chat, but he couldn't sit still. He stretched his neck, wanting to ask when his captain was leaving. His fans were still waiting for him to go on air. Who would have thought that when he glanced to the side, he would see the 6 glittering words on the other side, as if they were free. With a loud bang, he straightened his back. The interviewer looked over at him. Even the manager signaled for him to be quiet. Zhao Sanpang scratched his head, whipping out his phone to send a message in the WeChat group, tagging 2 people. You guys did it on purpose. Little Spade. Come out. Come out. Come out. The main character didn't come out, so the others all sent a yawning emoji. Someone even asked with concern, were you tortured again? Zhao Sanpang added, they're from the pedestrian walkway. Open the window and look outside. In less than a second, WeChat exploded. F***ck. Holy shit. Let me digest first. I feel that Xiangnan's impact is greater. They are doing an interview opposite. I won't say anything else. I'm so handsome, yet no one has proposed to me. The moment the phone vibrated, Beauty Luo and Captain Xiao saw the message and looked over. With that, the interviewer stopped talking. After all, Zhao Sanpeng's absent-mindedness was so obvious. Even the other two followed the interviewer's gaze and looked over. That interviewer was stunned. Propose to young Master Qin? Propose? Propose? He was probably not mistaken. Who could it be? So powerful. Chapter 1484. Even Zhao Sanpeng had said so. She could imagine the scene in the WeChat group. Basically, she had figured out the routine. This was a public display of affection. There was nothing else. Bo Jiu acknowledged this point. In the past, they could only show affection in front of the car. Now, it was different. They could declare their sovereignty. But speaking of which, Bo Jiu wasn't sure. From the start, she knew that a family like the Qin group wouldn't allow someone to marry into their family. In addition, little Princess Qin's personality. Bo Jiu thought about this and wanted to say something. Just then, a voice rang in her ears. Very beautiful. So, should she agree or not? Bo Jiu wanted to know. However, she saw him reach out his hand, and his fingertips brushed across her face as if he was wiping something dirty for her. The touch was slightly cold, but strangely comfortable. Let's go. That was it? Bo Jiu looked at the hand that was holding her. The joints were distinct, fair and slender. It was indeed beautiful. But, should she agree or not? After getting into the car, Bo Jiu felt that she had to end things quickly. She placed one hand over, an unknown emotion in her eyes. She was about to speak. Suddenly, a kiss landed on her lips. Bo Jiu paused. Qin Mo decided to stay in this position, pulling her into his arms. His gaze was noble. Not cold? It's all right. That wasn't the main point. Bo Jiu really didn't manage to finish it in one go. How should she put it? Qin Mo interrupted her, his voice slow. Didn't I already give you my household register? MMH? Bo Jiu arched a brow. Qin Mo pushed her hair aside. I've been yours for a long time. Are you the only one who realized this? Bo Jiu's eyes lit up. Her handsome face was a little arrogant. That's not it. I just want to make our relationship more legal. She wasn't a person who followed the rules. But being with little Princess Qin was the only time she wanted to follow the rules. It will be legal. Qin Mo had never been so soft-hearted before. The person in his arms was always like this. She looked like a fox that could leave any time, but in reality, she was more sentimental than anyone else. Qin Mo was glad that he had known since he was young that he had to monopolize such a person. Because there was such a person. It was like a black pearl covered with dust. It looked dark, but once it was placed in the night, it was bright and transparent. We'll get married when you're of age. Qin Mo chuckled lightly, his voice resonating in her heart. I'll marry into the Bo family. What did this sentence mean? Bo Jiu was very clear. If they had children in the future, their surname would only be Bo, not Qin. Moreover, the family of hackers needed to be passed down. This meant that he couldn't join the army, which was against all the rules of the Qin family. What about the Qin family? Bo Jiu was elated, so elated that she paused slightly when she mentioned the most important question. Your mother is a fan of movie Queenan. If you want to be the heir of the Qin family, you can have another child with her while you're still young, but there's one thing. What is it? Bo Jiu arched a brow. Chapter 1485. Everyone in the world knew that her greatest wish was to bring Qin Xiaoma home and raise him. Now, it had come true. Bo Jiu was overjoyed. MMH, I'll take care of you. Will you follow me back to Fifth Avenue? Sure. Qin Mo smiled. Once I get into university, you can go wherever you want. Bojio's eyes lit up. There are so many places I want to go, Kunlun, Mount Everest, Kukushili and other places, one place a year. Chin Mo pinched her face. As long as a certain someone isn't so mischievous. Bojio smiled suavely. I've always been obedient in front of a beauty. Chin Mo arched a brow. Beauty? This person never seemed to know who the real beauty was. Bojio wanted to say something since she was too happy. But before she could open her mouth, her breath was stolen. This kiss was different from the previous one. It was domineering and unstoppable. The slightly cold lips weren't gentle anymore, instead, they seemed to be stealing all her thoughts. Even the tip of her tongue had a lingering peppermint fragrance. He only released her when her entire body was numb. He freed one hand and sent a WeChat message. The gist of it was basically, you guys are interrupting me from agreeing to a certain someone's proposal. Hearing the slightly cold voice, Bojio realized that a few buttons on her shirt had been unbuttoned. From a certain perspective, it was indeed an interruption. He also glanced at her, reached out his hand, and fastened the buttons of her shirt one by one. His gaze was very deep. The phone exploded. One could imagine the situation in the WeChat group. Zhao Sanpang was the first to speak. Kick him out of the group. Agree. Agree +1. But it was useless. Chin Mo asked, are you jealous? He pulled the hatred towards him to the highest level. But that wasn't the end. Chin Mo continued, Hoshino should be in this group too. I don't have to inform him about my proposal. Zhao Sanpang, you finally did something a support should do. Zhao Sanpang, Hoshino, you see Shin. Every team member felt as though they had witnessed Chin Mo's shamelessness once again. Regarding this point, Bojio felt that the Almighty was playing tricks on her. Just one sentence, after she entered university. It had been almost a month. Everyone could basically see that the extremely handsome man was holding a book in his hand wherever he went. There was also a time when the blonde from second middle school saw it and was completely shocked. One had to know that although the results of the experts were good, it was really not like them to love learning so much. After all, the two of them had done frog jumps together. This was something only those who skipped class were qualified to do. Idol, you've changed. The yellow hair was very pained. You've really changed. Bojio smiled with the green foxtail in her mouth. What do you know? I'm preparing to marry the Almighty. After the Asian Cup. The entire Supreme Alliance was on holiday. There are only a few interviews to be done. She didn't want to show her face. It was a long rest. Of course, she would take this opportunity to study hard. However, no matter how strong the Supreme Alliance was or how much glory they had won, they would never be able to win. There were still many people who disliked Spadesy. Chapter 1486. Supreme Alliance did have its drawbacks. But it wasn't a coincidence. Every team would have its own problems when they reached their peak. It was the same for Supreme Alliance. They treated every match as though it was their last. It wasn't just passion, it was also because Supreme Alliance's lifespan wasn't that long. Not to mention Yin Wuyao's age. Moreover, most esports players were 18 or 19 years old. After 24 years old, their condition would deteriorate day by day. It sounded cruel, but it was the most realistic truth. That also meant that Supreme Alliance was aging. It wasn't just Yin Wuyao, there was also Lin Feng, Yunhu, and even Chin Mo. They had at most 2 years left in their professional sports career. Moreover, before the Asian Cup, Lin Feng and Yunhu had the thought of retiring. After the Lin family collapsed, they relied on the company to support them. Lin Feng looked innocent, but in reality, he was more responsible than anyone else. In the past, when the Lin family was doing well, he didn't have to care about anything and just be the young master of the courtyard. But now, it was different. Lin Feng could sense it from the way he treated others. But on the surface, he didn't care. In reality, Lin Feng wouldn't ignore the responsibility just because he was happy in the competition. Including after Supreme Alliance won the Asian Cup, he immediately started running projects outside. Yunhu asked him out several times. Of course, he didn't ask him out alone. He asked the people in the courtyard to gather together. Lin Feng rejected him several times because he was busy. The people standing beside Yunhu probably noticed something. They were still in the tea house. One of them laughed. Little boss Lin is really busy now. How about this, I'll make a call and talk to him about our previous collaboration. With that, he made the call in front of Yunhu. His motive was to make Yunhu happy. Yunhu held the teacup in his hand and didn't look at him. But that person understood that he couldn't hold it in anymore. He wanted to meet someone too much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given him face. Lin Feng didn't pick up quickly. When his voice traveled over, it sounded like the wind. Jia, what's wrong? Nothing much, I'm just calling you out for a gathering. Say, we grew up in the same yard, and it's been a long time since we last met. You said that you need to take care of your feathers during the competition, and now that you're on vacation, there's nothing wrong with hanging out a little longer. Song Jiahe was eloquent. You can't go wrong listening to me. I still have plenty of opportunities. Lin Feng glanced at the watch on his wrist and paused for a moment. Alright, where are you? Same old place, the tea house we used to frequent in the past. Song Jiahe glanced over at Yunhu. Lin Feng didn't talk much when he was driving. After all, he wasn't in the team, so his personality was much calmer. He didn't talk much anymore. After all, this was the biggest taboo in the business world. The less he spoke, the fewer mistakes he would make. Because no matter what you said, as long as the other party had the intention, they would find faults in your speech. That was why in the business world, people would talk less and do more. If Bo Jiao saw this side of Lin Feng, she would probably be in disbelief. But humans seem to be like this. Their personalities were multifaceted and they had a layer of camouflage to better integrate into society. Chapter 1487. But it was just a glance. Lin Feng roughly understood what was going on. No matter how naive he was, he knew who it was for. Song Jiahe had always been a liar. If not, the Song family's business wouldn't be so big. When he saw him, he immediately stood up and placed the teacup down. Young Master Lin, busy man, why are you standing at the door? Come in. Lin Feng walked in. After all, he came from the same courtyard. Even though things were different now, it wasn't much. After the decline of the Lin family, Lin Feng had met these people and understood the difficulty of asking them to do things for him. It wasn't like novels where they would mock you in front of your face. They were just friends who ate meat and drank with him in the past. Suddenly, they stopped contacting him. They would avoid him during gatherings. From a certain perspective, he seemed to represent bad luck. Song Jiahe was the one who didn't care about such things. Whenever there was a festival, he would definitely receive red packets. But it wasn't like today. Lin Feng felt that it was rather boring. People who hadn't experienced it wouldn't understand. When you were prosperous, there would be people following you around. When you have nothing, anyone who knows you will feel that you are unlucky. But with Yunhu around, Lin Feng's value was different. When Lin Feng raised his head, he had mostly calmed down. He walked over and sat beside Yunhu. There was only one empty seat. He removed his trench coat and hung it behind the chair. He took out a cigarette from the box on the table. Song Jiahe's mission was to invite Lin Feng out. If he interfered with other matters, he would be afraid that person wouldn't agree. He filled the teacup casually and heated up the atmosphere so that it would be easier for the two of them to talk. Yunhu didn't beat around the bush. Angry? Lin Feng's hand paused and he turned to look at him. Yunhu looked at him, his gaze deep. I asked you out but you didn't come. I had to change the method. How dizzy. Lin Feng took a sip of tea. Can't you tell me over the phone? Yunhu remained calm. There's no atmosphere for a conversation. At this moment, Lin Feng was reminded of the Yun family's teachings. There were countless rules and regulations. There's an atmosphere for a conversation now. Lin Feng smiled. After all, everyone has to give you face. Yunhu could tell that he wasn't happy. But he had no choice. He wanted to see someone. He didn't know if that person did it intentionally or not. It didn't seem like hiding, but it was impossible to say that nothing had happened. If it was someone else. Yunhu's methods had long been used. To be able to make someone like Song Jiahe work for him. It wasn't just because of the Yun family. This showed Yunhu's usual behavior. But it was him. Yunhu gripped the teacup in his hand, slowly releasing it one by one. His fingers were long and slender, his voice faint. Fortunately, you still have the face to let me use it. Lin Feng didn't say anything. After all, he knew that this matter couldn't be blamed on anyone. After all, there was already a gap between the two of them. This was a reality that could not be changed. Yunhu didn't think so. The Asian Cup is over, but are you not planning to return to the team? Chapter 1488. I don't remember, Yunhu replied faintly. Lin Feng arched a brow. You don't remember? He said how great it was to play sports. Just by playing games and doing commentary, there would be a bunch of girls who liked him. He also said that there were so many beauties in the team and he wouldn't have to worry about finding a partner. With the captain as a template, he was a winner in life. In the end, he didn't even see a single beauty, just a bunch of rotten bachelors. It was worse than a university dorm. I almost fell in love with my computer. I didn't even have enough time to sleep. It was like a monk's life. Isn't it good? We won the national championship. That was what Yunhu said, but in his heart, he was thinking, I didn't join Supreme Alliance for any other reason. After Feng Yi convinced you, he understood that he was indirectly trying to convince me. Lin Feng placed his teacup down and leaned back. It was indeed good, the national championship, the Asian Cup. This is what we have always wanted. After so many years, we finally got it. But esports has always been a youthful industry. My condition can't always be this good. Besides, you should have felt it, I'm starting to deteriorate. This has nothing to do with anything else, it was just a natural reaction after reaching an age. Yunhu didn't reply because he knew Lin Feng was speaking the truth. Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't be able to stop it. Lin Feng glanced at the ceiling. It was really good when we were young. It was really good to play games, but there was no other way. I would grow up one day and so would you. Ever since Supreme Alliance was established, we have been through so many things. When we weren't doing well, people looked down on us and anyone could take advantage of us because we weren't recognized by the mainstream. It wasn't easy for us to persevere until the Asian Cup. They made our captain and Little Spade retire in order to achieve the perfection in their hearts. The scariest thing in this world isn't the darkness. We survived it. The scariest thing is probably the darkness again. I can't care about it. I don't want to talk about the fame and fortune. I want to retire. Yunhu's fingers paused. Of course, that's next year. Lin Feng lifted his arm. I can't bear to leave everyone. Yunhu glanced sideways at his face, but he couldn't see anything. Just as he had said, this person had grown up. Even if he was a little tired, he wouldn't be the same as before. He wouldn't act like he did in the past. He looked at him and just smiled. Yunhu couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. It was very uncomfortable. However, she also felt that this person was ridiculously handsome when he turned into a man. Lin Feng took another sip of tea. I wonder what kind of words Fox Feng will use when he recruits people this year. You don't have to bluff me. Yunhu smiled, which was rare for him. Lin Feng thought about it and said, that's true, there's no need to bluff them. If they really can't find a partner, they can still deal with it internally. With Little Spade and Captain there, do you know that Zhao Sanpeng almost jumped out of the phone? Yunhu glanced at him. You still know how to digest it internally? Lin Feng smiled. Why don't I know? Yunhu didn't want to continue the conversation since there were other people around. He didn't care, but he knew that Lin Feng had his own concerns. Especially in this kind of situation, he probably didn't want to feel that way. Chapter 1489. If we meet in the future, there's no need to do such a thing. Lin Feng played with the teacup. In front of Yunhu, he still couldn't change his bad habits. Even though he wouldn't say anything in the business world, there was no knowing what was in a person's heart. The more he said, the easier it was to be misinterpreted. But Lin Feng thought about it. This was Yunhu, not someone else, so he just said it directly. Yunhu chuckled. All right. This time, the two of them left together. Yunhu didn't drive over. 80% of it was intentional. The onlookers saw it clearly. When he sent them off, Song Jiahe was still smiling, looking at Yunhu with a deep gaze. Yunhu only showed him the side of his face. Song Jiahe immediately restrained himself. Lin Feng's next actions proved that he was still Lin Feng. Even though the Lin family had failed, his temperament was still there. He patted his shoulder with a smile and casually threw him a cigarette. Contact me when you're free. He was still free and easy. That face was beautiful, but upon closer inspection, it became more angular. Song Jiahe roughly understood why his biggest partner couldn't bear to part with this person from the Lin family. He introduced many people to him. He always told them to scram. But he never said anything harsh in front of him. It was probably because he had been through so much, but he still had a trace of youthful spirit. Of course, there were people who looked for young shampoo. But that was different. Lin Feng had something different. For the people in their circle, as long as their families failed, they would lose all their edges and become extremely decadent. Even though Lin Feng wasn't the same as before, it was strange that he could still be like this after accepting everything. Song Jiahe was a social network person. He knew the attitude people had towards Lin Feng. That subtlety could sometimes destroy many people. In the past, Song Jiahe had always thought that young Master Yun was interested in Lin Feng's looks. After all, there weren't many people with such integrity in their circle. But it depended on who wanted it. If it was young Master Yun, there would be a bunch of people coming for him without even saying a word. Now, Song Jiahe understood that it had nothing to do with looks. It was probably because he liked Lin Feng for too long. Or as people often said, good-looking skin is the same, but interesting souls are 1 in a million. Only young Master Yun himself knew what kind of Lin Feng he liked. Song Jiahe had always known that he was just a pimp in the eyes of others. Speaking of which, this was his first time pimping someone so pure. Just for a meeting? Song Jiahe looked at the two of them and put the cigarette in his mouth. They were really ruining his reputation. He, young Master Song, had never done such a pure and affectionate business. Some people probably didn't understand. They were used to seeing power and sex deals. When they looked at the two of them again, they always felt that this was probably what love looked like, even if they weren't together. In reality, even though Lin Feng was enjoying himself, when Yunhu sat beside him, he couldn't help but want to say something. The distance between them was too close, so close that he could even smell the aroma of the tea on his body. In addition, the two of them were in the car. It felt a little weird when it was quiet. After all, he was the one who started the conversation. Fox Feng told us to gather at the club tomorrow. Have you received the message? Yunhu glanced at him, replying slowly, I was the one who informed you. Lin Feng. Chapter 1490. Too many things have happened recently, my brain isn't working well. Lin Feng coughed lightly, lowering the window. Let's get some fresh air, it's stuffy in the car. Yunhu didn't expose his clumsy acting since he was well aware of his explosive personality. Hence, he glanced out of the car. Even so, Lin Feng still felt that the atmosphere was indescribable. After all, he couldn't continue the awkward conversation. Just as he was hesitating about what to do, a message saved him. In the past, he hadn't liked receiving such messages. After all, no one liked being fed dog food. However, Little Spade had recognized him as a brother and would ask about his captain's preferences. After he was done, he would ask him with an enigmatic smile, "When are you going to start dating?" Lin Feng felt that the first part was just a prelude, the last part was the fatal blow to the single dog. Today, the message was finally delivered in a different way. "I heard you are with Almighty Yun. I have 4 movie tickets here. As an important supporting role, I sincerely invite you and Almighty Yun to help me boost the box office." Box office? With his goddess, movie queen and supporting them, how bad would the box office be? Besides, everyone knew that the movie was selling like crazy. Little Spade wasn't asking him to go for the box office. He couldn't fall for it. But, oh right, I forgot to mention, here's a signed uniform from your goddess, I'll pass it to you when you arrive. This nickname was given to Bo Jiao by Little Spade. After reading her message, he was in a dilemma, debating whether to go to the Yun family's house or the cinema. After all, if he went to the Yun family's house and saw his godmother, she would definitely invite him over for a cup of tea. Normally, she would ask him to stay over. In comparison, going to the cinema wasn't as awkward. With that in mind, Lin Feng asked, "Are you free later? Little Spade invited us for a movie, do you want to go?" Yun, who turned off the message, replying with a natural MMH, the naive Lin Feng could tell that it was a ploy, but he hadn't expected it to be a trap. On the other hand, Bo Jiao smiled lightly, her thin lips lifting as she replied, "You're welcome, see you at the cinema." Speaking of which, she hadn't watched a movie with the Almighty. This was the perfect opportunity. Bo Jiao packed up quickly since she had mastered the technique. After putting on the trench coat, she first put on a black mask, then one for the Almighty. Qin Mo arched a brow and placed the book down. "What are you doing?" "After studying so hard for so long, I've decided to give myself a reward." When Bo Jiao smiled, the mole under her eyes was obvious. "Let's go watch a movie." Qin Mo glanced up, his aura noble. His voice was deep because of the mask. "Little Bo Jiao, do you need me to remind you how many days are left until the college entrance examination? Or do you not want to marry me? Do you want to abandon me?" Only the Almighty would be able to ask a girl to marry him without any hesitation. Bo Jiao replied with a serious expression, "I think we should nurture our relationship. The fans are saying that we haven't had enough dog food recently." Chapter 1491. This was the downside of being an old married couple. Little Princess Qin was no longer the person whose ears would turn red with every word she said. Bo Jiao glanced over. She didn't fall for his trap. She supported herself on the chair with one hand and kissed his lips through the mask. That position was rather handsome. This time, she should be able to conquer the Almighty. Bo Jiao thought. Before he could react, he was pressed into the chair by the other party. The mask was removed in the next second and thrown onto the floor. Bo Jiao wasn't smart, but she couldn't understand how obsessed a man at his age could be. There were some things that were fine if he didn't start because he wouldn't be able to get a taste. But the person he liked was in his arms, but he couldn't touch her. After all, a certain someone wasn't old enough. In the past 3 times, he really couldn't take it anymore. Moreover, a certain someone was always teasing him. Recently, Qin Mo hadn't kissed her in order to prevent himself from losing control. This action could be said to have ignited all the flames. Bo Jiao could feel his body temperature rising under her palms. His breath was still hot when it landed on her lips. Even though it was slightly minty, it made her feel hot. She couldn't help but feel her body heat up. He didn't hold back when he reached in. When his fingertips slid past her waist, a numbness spread from her tailbone. Bo Jiao hugged his neck to prevent herself from slipping off the chair. Her face was flushed and even her lips were a little watery. Qin Mo watched the person in his arms, his gaze deepening. When it reached a certain depth, his long fingers unbuttoned her shirt and he leaned over to kiss her fair collarbone. Bo Jiao trembled. She couldn't resist the pleasure. It was like a wave, sweeping over her. Because of a kiss. The two of them left half an hour later. But they didn't go all the way. Bo Jiao's body was covered in kiss marks. The marks on her neck were the most obvious. No more, no less. Exactly 35 minutes. The Almighty wasn't careless when he bullied her. Even now, Bo Jiao's body was still tingling with the heat. He turned and helped her put the mask back on. His voice was calm but raspy. You can leave now. We'll continue when you're back. Bo Jiao arched a brow. Continue what? TSK, how terrifying. What? You're not willing? Qin Mo moved closer to her face. Then I won't go. Bo Jiao leaned over and kissed him, smiling mischievously. Brother Mo, you're mistaken. It was better than coming back and continuing to tutor her in physics. Qin Mo pulled her up, warning her slowly, stop flirting with me or you won't be able to leave the house. This time, Bo Jiao stopped. After all, she couldn't take another round of bullying. The Almighty's aura was too alluring. Bo Jiao always suspected that he did it on purpose. After making her body hot, he didn't care anymore. But even so, it was also difficult for her to go out. The hickey on her neck was too obvious. It was already very strange to wear a scarf in this temperature. Bo Jiao had no choice but to change into a white turtleneck shirt and a mask. She wore a thin trench coat so that no traces could be seen. However, Lin Feng, who was already at the cinema, felt a little regretful. Who could tell him why there were so many couples watching a movie about hackers? Undoubtedly, Lin Feng and Yun who stood out among the crowd. This caused many people to turn back to look at them. Especially at such a time. It was a weekend and the movie would start at 8 p.m. Needless to say, there would be a lot of people. A few girls kept looking over at Lin Feng. Even though Lin Feng was wearing a mask, he still felt awkward. At this moment, Yunhu turned to ask him, "Do you want some popcorn?" It was true that he liked sweet things, but it wasn't appropriate for a grown man to carry a bucket of popcorn, right? Lin Feng was about to reject Yunhu. Yunhu's voice rang again. "Buy a bucket, I'll carry it." "Sure." Lin Feng nodded. After all, there wouldn't be any atmosphere if he didn't eat popcorn. But when Yunhu finished buying and held the popcorn in his hands, it wasn't the case. Because there wasn't just popcorn in his hands. There were also 2 jackets and a cup of lemon red tea. When she walked beside him like this, it was like this. Lin Feng could clearly hear the whispers around him. He really knows how to take care of people. That's right, I can't be too happy with such a boyfriend. My boyfriend never takes the initiative to buy popcorn for me. Lin Feng. He just bought popcorn, how did he become a boyfriend? Couldn't there be pure friendship between men these days? Also, if you want to talk, then talk. Why do you have to talk so loudly? Were they afraid that he couldn't hear them? Lin Feng felt a little uncomfortable standing there. They were just watching a movie together in the team. Why did it feel like a date? Thinking about this, Lin Feng shook his head, trying to get rid of this strange illusion. But there was still some time before the movie started. He couldn't avoid the gazes of others. He wanted to find a place to drink something, but the people sitting inside were all couples. It was really awkward. When he finally sat down quietly, he met a familiar face. When Lin Feng saw Beauty Luo, who was known as the sorcerer goddess, looking at him with a meaningful expression, Lin Feng felt troubled. As expected, that person smiled, lowered her head and started to play with her phone. In the next second, Lin Feng saw a message in the Almighty's WeChat group. I found out about Feng and Yun's adultery. In the past, they always used their good brothers as an excuse. It's really, hey, retreat. Lin Feng held his forehead. Beauty Luo had 2 ponytails today, looking youthful. Why do you care so much? There seems to be a problem. Problem my foot. Lin Feng was helpless, sitting down. Why are you guys from Xiangnan always staying in Jiang City? Beauty Luo smiled. We're recruiting, there are many talents in Jiang City. If Xiangnan had a branch here, would my almighty Z have been snatched away? Big sister, Little Spade was subdued by our team's charm, all right? Beauty Luo narrowed her eyes, feeling a sense of danger. Who are you calling big sister? Little sister. Lin Feng immediately changed his words. Little goddess. Beauty Luo took a sip of tea. Little submissive Lin is such a good boy. Lin Feng, MMH? They all replied. Beauty Luo unlocked her phone. Send a couple photo of you and Yunhu, saying that they wish you a happy marriage. Lin Feng unlocked his phone and sent 2 words in the group chat. Ha, ha. Only after sending the message did he realize something. You came by yourself? What are you doing here? Beauty Luo bit on her straw, seemingly indifferent. Blind date. Lin Feng. Chapter 1492. Blind date? Are you serious? Lin Feng was still in disbelief. Even Yunhu, who was standing at the side, furrowed his brows. Beauty Luo chuckled, is it that strange? I'm one of the older pro players. Plus, it's not like you guys don't know where I came from. The people in small counties are pretty much settled when they reach my age. No, does Poker Face Xiao know about your blind date? Lin Feng grabbed his hair, feeling as though it was a dream. Beauty Luo placed the drink in her hand down, seemingly nonchalant. The captain isn't responsible for the feelings of his team members. Moreover, I'm about to retire. My love life in the future has nothing to do with Xiangnan. The moment the word retire came out, all of Lin Feng's words seemed to have been blocked. He sat there, thinking about something. Their opponent had always been Xiangnan. Luo Luo was one of the few female professional players in the esports industry. She was able to become one of the top sorcerers in the country. Not many people could surpass her in terms of esports. Of course, Little Spade was an exception. But she was such a person. Was she going to retire? Hey, little submissive Lin, what's with your expression? Beauty Luo tilted her head, revealing her white teeth. She had a fresh aura. Isn't it normal for people in our industry to retire? But she couldn't find a reason to stay by that person's side. She knew that things would come to this stage. That was why she didn't expose him. I know, it's normal. Lin Feng stood up, suddenly wanting to smoke a cigarette. Yunhu held him down. Captain, they are coming soon. Let's go get the tickets first. Qin Mo is coming too. Beauty Luo raised her eyebrows. My god, Z is definitely coming too. Are you guys dating? Lin Feng reached out and patted her head. Don't spout nonsense. Alright, the movie is about to start. Beauty Luo wasn't angry. Go get the tickets if you need them. Don't show off your love in front of me. Lin Feng knew to correct her. His mood was much more relaxed than before. Since the other party could accept it. There was nothing else. Luo Luo was right, retirement was a normal thing in their industry. But there was a kind of banquet that no one wanted to end. Lin Feng still felt that he had to do something. When he followed Yunhu to collect the tickets, he swiped open his phone and sent a WeChat message. Poker Face Xiao, don't blame me for not reminding you. You better come to the commercial street. Luo Luo is preparing to go on a blind date. If she really succeeds, you won't be able to do anything in the future. After sending the message, Lin Feng stuffed his phone into his pocket. The moment he glanced up, he met Yunhu's gaze. Let's go in first. Yunhu's voice was calm. Captain and the others are already in the underground car park. Lin Feng replied, okay. However, his line of sight was still fixed in the same direction. Yunhu suddenly said, "This is the first time I know you are so close to the people from Xiangnan. Want to be good?" Lin Feng was confused. Yunhu glanced sideways. "People who don't know might think you like her. How is that possible?" Lin Feng's reaction was almost instinctive. When Yunhu heard this, his tightly clenched fingers slowly loosened, but his expression was still nonchalant. "Why not? Luo Luo is the goddess of the circle. F*ck, are you really slow or are you pretending to be slow? Can't you tell that Luo Luo likes poker face Xiao?" Lin Feng was like an emoji. Yunhu just held the movie tickets in his hand and asked slowly, "Are you really slow or are you pretending to be slow? Can't you tell that I still like you?" The moment this sentence came out, in an instant, Lin Feng's emoji seemed to be enchanted. He froze there abruptly. The surrounding sound seemed to have been covered. Regardless of whether it was the sound of the movie preview or the noise of the people coming and going, it seemed to have faded at this moment. The only thing left was the sound that kept replaying in his ears and his increasingly rapid heartbeat. Bang! 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 Lin Feng opened his mouth and was about to speak. Yunhu interrupted him. His gaze was incomparably dark. "I'm not joking. Choose again. Do you want to be a lover or break off our friendship? There is no third choice. I don't want to be brothers anymore. Choose." Lin Feng was extremely annoyed by the sound of his heartbeat. After hearing the other party's words, he was in a state of eruption. Choose what choice? F*ck. Yunhu, have you forgotten that you have a boyfriend? What are you doing now? Are you having second thoughts? I always knew that your circle is messy. You don't take sleeping with others seriously. You even do it in the bathroom if you like someone. But you can't do this. You. Before he could finish his words, a jacket fell from the top of his head. It had a faint smell of tobacco and popcorn. It directly dragged him to a certain place. Lin Feng couldn't see. The only thing he could feel was that his entire body was pressed against the wall by the other party. The back of his head touched the wall. He wanted to move. A familiar breath suddenly pasted on his lips. Both of them had just drunk tea. There was still a faint taste of Longjing tea between their lips. But it was this faint taste that made Lin Feng's scalp go numb. Because he clearly knew that Yunhu was kissing him. In such a place. In the crowded cinema. Even though his head was covered with a jacket. But they were so close to each other. There was a possibility of being discovered. Even if they couldn't be discovered. But Lin Feng's heart felt as though it was about to explode. It beat faster and faster. The faster it beat, the hotter it became. Yunhu seemed to have planned it from the start. He wouldn't let him off just like that. It was different from the previous times. The lack of oxygen made Lin Feng's waist weak even after he pushed him away. Not to mention the silver strands that flowed down the corner of his mouth. F*ck. Lin Feng wanted to reach out to wipe away the burning sensation. In the end, he could only tug on his jacket. His breathing was still unstable. He lowered his voice and said, "Are you crazy?" In such a place, Yunhu looked at the person whose hair was messed up by him. He took another step closer. "You mean it's fine if we don't do it in such a place?" Both of them were about the same height. If they were to compare, Yunhu was still taller by 3 centimeters. Both of them were tall and slender, yet the atmosphere was so unusual. There would definitely be people stopping to watch. "You." Lin Feng's voice became softer. This was the first time he felt that Yunhu was so dangerous. In the past, Yunhu had never been like this. Chapter 1493. He realized that there were more and more people. Lin Feng wore his mask and turned to leave. But Yunhu blocked his way. I don't have a boyfriend. Yunhu's gaze deepened. Before you agree, I won't have any lovers, regardless of gender. I thought you already knew this. Lin Feng couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed his collar and pushed him against the wall. You don't have a boyfriend? That boy from before, was he a fake? Yunhu, let me tell you, regardless of whether you like girls or guys, you can't be a jerk. His sudden outburst stunned all the girls around him. Is Little Shou jealous now? It's obvious, but Little Shou looks handsome when he's jealous. You haven't even seen his face and you say he's handsome. His figure and aura are so good, it's impossible for his face not to look good. He looks so familiar with his mask. Alright, stop talking. It's time to think about your 2D Prince Charming again. But he does look familiar. Lin Feng tugged Yunhu. Let's find a quieter place to talk. Okay. Such a cooperative attitude made Lin Feng pause for a moment. He really wanted to beat him up. What exactly was wrong with Yunhu? Was this how he treated relationships? It wasn't easy to find a quieter place in a huge shopping mall. Lin Feng dragged him forward. In the end, Yunhu glanced to the side and reminded him. There's an emergency exit on your left. Lin Feng finally regained some rationality. He pushed the door open and dragged Yunhu into the tunnel. There were 2 people smoking there. When they saw them, they thought they were going to fight. They hurriedly extinguished their cigarettes and walked out. Lin Feng inhaled deeply and was about to say something when Yunhu interrupted him. Yunhu interrupted him, his lips lifting slightly. I'm very happy. Happy? Lin Feng's anger grew. What are you smiling about? Is this something to be happy about? Yunhu's gaze deepened. You are jealous because of me, how is that not something to be happy about? Lin Feng paused, his voice sinking. I'm not. If you didn't, you wouldn't be acting like this. Yunhu allowed him to tug on his collar. Let's talk about the boy you mentioned. He isn't my boyfriend. I hired him to act. Acting? Lin Feng felt like they weren't on the same channel at all. Yunhu took a step forward. Because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to control myself and would be pushed away by you, I didn't even want to be your friend. Instead, I found someone so that you wouldn't disgust me so much. Lin Feng's grip loosened by more than half. The pause on his face was very obvious. He never expected things to turn out this way. Back then, I thought about how you would react when you saw me. Even if there was something wrong, I wanted to try again. But you kept wishing me happiness and even heaved a huge sigh of relief. It was as though you wouldn't be harassed by me anymore. You probably don't understand how it feels. The person you like doesn't like you and is trying his best to get you together with someone else. That's why I said I'm happy that you're finally jealous. Admit it, you like me too. Lin Feng froze. He didn't know if it was because of his actions or his words, but he didn't even know where to place his fingers. Yunhu was a little unrestrained. His fingers slid up his waist. From his perspective, as long as this person didn't reject him, everything wouldn't be a problem. Lin Feng felt as though his life had been exposed. His waist turned soft and the back of his ears turned red. Yunhu lowered his lids and pressed against the side of his face. And that day, after you left, I let him go because other than you, I don't want to sleep with anyone else. It was the same in the past and it will be the same in the future. Sleep your head. Who's talking about this? Lin Feng tilted his head and muttered. F***ck, F***ck, don't touch me randomly. The smile on Yunhu's face deepened. I won't touch you randomly. Then take your hand back, jerk. Lin Feng grabbed a handful of hair and pushed him away. Don't play such boring games in the future. Find someone to pretend to be your boyfriend. Do you think you are filming a movie? Yunhu replied. He lowered his lids and moved closer. So, do you want to be with me in the future? Lin Feng paused and looked at his face. He didn't reply immediately. He was the only one in the Lin family and the Yun family. When Yunhu saw that Lin Feng didn't reply, the smile on his lips gradually faded. As time went on, it started to turn colder. You are still like this even after everything has been said. Lin Feng, when will you realize a problem? No matter how deep your love is, it will end sooner or later. With that, Yunhu turned and wanted to leave. From his face, he could see many things. Even if he liked him, he couldn't accept it. This was probably what made people feel the most helpless. Lin Feng stood there and looked at his back view. Almost instinctively, he reached out and grabbed his wrist. Yunhu stopped in his tracks but wanted to shake his hand off. It wasn't because of anything else but because the phone in his pocket rang. It should be the location sharing effect. Lin Feng misunderstood his intentions and thought that this fellow was going to make a decision on his own. He was a little anxious. You have to give me some time to think before making a decision. F***ck, I have been a straight man for more than 20 years and I am going to turn gay because of you. Can't you hesitate and do some psychological hints? Do you know how long I have had a crush on you? Before Lin Feng could finish his sentence, he froze. It wasn't because of anything else but when he shouted that he was going to turn gay because of you, someone pushed the door open and came in for a smoke. After exchanging glances with Lin Feng, the person slammed the door with a bang. His expression seemed to be saying that city people really knew how to have fun. Lin Feng wanted to grab his hair again. But it wasn't over yet. Soon, a round of applause came from above him. Lin Feng turned her head and saw the young man leaning against the wall with a mischievous smile on his thin lips. Her left hand gently patted her right hand. Team Flower Lin, your coming out declaration is really out of the ordinary. Turning gay because of you? You scared all the people who wanted to smoke. It's really new. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Lin Feng opened his mouth. F***ck, when did Little Spade come? And the captain standing behind her. Why didn't he say anything? Wait a minute, the captain seemed to have turned on the team voice chat. That meant F***ck, F***ck, F***ck. His illustrious reputation. Lin Feng wanted to find a hole to hide in. Chapter 1494. Rao Rong replied, the voice is clear, I'm gay for you. Coco replied, shouldn't the successful confession be treated to a meal? Yin Weiyao replied, youngsters these days can't be compared. Lin Shintao replied, I'm gay for you, I'll repeat this sentence today. Feng Shang replied, repeat, +1. His phone vibrated in his jacket pocket. Lin Feng didn't need to look to know what was going on in the chat group. F***ck. As his longtime ally, Bo Jiu wasn't going to let go of such an interesting Lin Feng. You can't even turn gay, do you need Almighty Yun to clean you up and send you to your room? Lin Feng didn't want to speak, he turned his head and started to calm down. Bo Jiu leaped down the stairs, her clothes fluttering. She reached out and patted his shoulder, her voice deep. Think about it, the difference between taking the initiative and being passive. This is the most important factor in determining your position in bed. Don't say that your ally doesn't want to help you. If you were the one who asked, you would be able to. Before Lin Feng could wrap his head around it, he had been instilled with such thoughts. The worst part was, he had actually listened. No, Little Spade, is it appropriate for a girl like you to discuss such a topic with me? Lin Feng's voice was similarly deep. Bo Jiu laughed lightly. We're both adults, do you want to be the one being attacked? Lin Feng inhaled deeply. Yes. Isn't that enough? Bo Jiu retracted her hand. Alright, plan carefully, send me a message if you don't understand. Now, let's go watch a movie. Lin Feng lowered his head and took a look. In the team's discussion group, he was listed as Little Submissive Lin. He seemed to have made up his mind, glancing over at Yunhu. Yunhu didn't hear their conversation. Lin Feng's, "I'm already gay for you, you have to give me some mental preparation," was enough to make him so happy he didn't need to hear anything else. If there wasn't someone beside them, he would probably have pushed him against the wall and bullied him. Qin Mo, who could guess what she was talking about, glanced over when she came back, brushing her hair. "Does being mischievous make you happy?" "How can this be called mischievous? I'm helping to warm up their relationship. Otherwise, when would I be able to see little submissive Lin suffering from back pain?" Bo Jiao spoke righteously, but the smile in her eyes betrayed her evil intentions. Little submissive Lin still didn't understand who had the stronger aura. This was something that had long been decided. Yun, who didn't look like the one at the bottom, and he wouldn't be the one at the bottom. Little submissive Lin was still too naive. However, it was quite interesting to see little submissive Lin trying his best to make a comeback. The four of them returned to the crowd through the fire escape. The people behind them probably didn't see them. They bumped into Lin Feng but didn't apologize and just walked forward. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to call him back, he saw that person pull out a chair and sit opposite Beauty Luo. From this angle, the people in the coffee shop couldn't see outside. But the four people outside could see inside. Bo Jiao raised a brow. "What's going on? Didn't you see the Almighty's discussion group?" Lin Feng glanced sideways. "Luo Luo is on a blind date." "Blind date?" Bo Jiao paused. She realized that he definitely didn't want anyone to see such an occasion. Any girl wouldn't want to face such a situation. Especially a girl like Beauty Luo. She lifted her feet and was about to leave. But the conversation on the other side was still heard. The man looked very greasy. He probably came from a rich family. From the moment he sat down, the first thing he said was, "The matchmaker didn't exaggerate things. Miss Luo is not bad looking and tall. She is a good match for me." Luo Luo didn't say anything. She just smiled. After all, she couldn't tell how 168 meters and 169 meters were compatible. Was there only a difference of 1 centimeter? Luo Luo was still very polite. This was her expression when she was talking to strangers. The man drank a mouthful of water. His eyes didn't move away from Luo Luo. He sized her up. "But I'm different from other men. I don't look at looks. The most important thing is temperament and upbringing. I heard that Miss Luo's education isn't very high. Is that right?" Luo Luo was thinking about when she was going to leave. The man frowned. "That's why you play games. The matchmaker did mention this. Your main job is to play games." Luo Luo's fingers paused. She looked up. "It's esports." "Yes, esports." The man said this, but he acted as though there wasn't any difference between the two. "My family business is big. You should have heard about it before you came. My mother is a teacher. She is quite open-minded, but it's better for boys to play games. After all, we eat our youth. I heard that other than you, there aren't any other girls in your team?" Luo Luo only gave him one word. "Yes." "That's not very good." The man looked at Luo Luo with a different gaze. He seemed to be scrutinizing and reminding her. It's important to maintain a distance from the opposite sex. Luo Luo raised her eyebrows. There was a different kind of beauty when she spoke slowly. "Mr. Zhang, what do you mean?" "Miss Luo, don't misunderstand. I'm just asking casually." The man smiled. Luo Luo turned her hand and sent the matchmaker a message saying, "We are not suitable." She was about to stand up. "I have 3 houses in this city, one of which can be used as a wedding house. You can decorate it according to the style you like. After all, the cost of decorating a wedding house is usually borne by the bride. You have played games for so many years, so you should have some savings. Overall, I am very satisfied with Miss Luo. As for the rest, I will discuss it with my mother. You should know that in the eyes of an educator, academic qualifications are very important. After dinner, let's walk around and get to know each other better. Luo didn't expect that at this moment. The man spoke again. I heard that you can earn a lot of money by playing games. The matchmaker has also communicated with me. I don't approve of girls showing their faces outside, but I also respect women who work. It's just that your occupation is not very orthodox. Luckily, the matchmaker said that you are about to resign, and that's fine too. I've seen many professional gamers who don't compete and just do live broadcasts at home to earn a lot of money, as long as you pay attention to your attire during the broadcast. I'm a very open-minded person, and it's easy to mediate family matters. You should also understand my job. That aunt of yours from the county town came to me for treatment. Chapter 1495. Luo interrupted him. She stood up with her slender legs. I don't think we need to get to know each other better. We aren't compatible. The man probably hadn't expected to be rejected. His eyes widened. Then he took a deep breath and said loudly, "Isn't it just a lousy gamer? Why are you so arrogant?" Luo glanced back. Her gaze was cold. I'll tell you one more time. I play sports. Miss Luo, you don't seem to know. I've heard about you. You're a girl with no background. You were able to become a professional gamer because you did things that others weren't willing to do. You're good now, but who knows where your money came from? You imitated other people's moves, hugged the thighs of professional gamers, and used your beauty to enter the eyes of the higher-ups. Don't keep saying that you play sports. No matter how nice you sound, you're just a peripheral gamer who plays games that are slightly more advanced. That's right, Luo said. Because Luo was beautiful, many people had been looking at her when she had first entered the shop. Moreover, the two of them looked like they were on a blind date. Everyone was curious. Hence, the moment the man spoke, almost all the gazes in the cafe focused on Luo. There were some who liked to play games too. Previously, because of the direction Luo was sitting in, they could only see her back view. Now, they could even see her face. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. She must be Goddess Luo. So, the things online are true. What did I say? Which girl doesn't fake her moves when she plays games? This isn't anything new. She imitated others and then started to accompany the higher-ups. She just did a good job in public relations. No one found out. When the sound of whispering could be heard, Luo's entire face turned pale. There were some things that didn't seem to matter no matter what you said. People would only believe what they were willing to believe. Until now, Luo still couldn't forget the first time she had entered a professional team. A reputable person in the circle, who was known to be the most willing to help newcomers, had sat at the table and told her that if she was willing, she could get as much money and connections as she wanted. With Luo's temper, she would definitely not agree. After apologizing, she stood up. But in the end, he was still a member of the team. Because the line was pulled by the club, it was impossible to act like in the TV dramas, where a cup of water was splashed over. In reality, Luo had been a little scared at that time. At that time, she had never imagined that such things existed in her favorite industry. Even her left hand was trembling when she walked out. She had originally thought that her agent would stand up for her after hearing about what had happened. Unexpectedly, her manager only said, "Pretend that nothing happened. Luo, this is for your own good." Luo was indignant, especially when she heard that person say that she was completely impolite and her skills were average. Impulsively, he replied on the internet. The man changed the topic and talked about what happened last night. He said, "Girls need to be reserved. It's easy for people to misunderstand you when you're so proactive. You used to be cold and hardworking before, but when you're at the table, you're completely different. You don't need to wear revealing clothes, but some of your actions are so passionate that it makes people uncomfortable." A lot of people started to follow suit, basically asking for details. There was no lack of people in the industry who would give you an answer. Another girl in the team jumped out and pretended not to know anything. No wonder Sister Luolua wasn't with us last night. She had another dinner appointment. That's weird. After all, Sister Luolua doesn't look like that kind of person. As expected of the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. Luolua couldn't remember how many people had guessed her at the start. It was just that in every match, he would always receive strange looks from the audience. That kind of gaze, when it landed on her body. She would always want to open her mouth and say something. But at the same time, she realized that no matter what she said, no one would listen to her. Because they would ask her why she didn't say anything back then. They would even say that if she wasn't willing, she shouldn't go. Or perhaps it was all for money. If not, they would have caused a ruckus a long time ago. From the time the incident happened to the time she left the team. She had experienced the darkest days of the 3 months. It wasn't that she hadn't thought of giving up. When she was alone, she just wanted to cry. But she couldn't cry because there were many people looking at her, waiting for her to fall. Even if they couldn't replace her position, they could use her as a topic to talk about her. It would make them feel that they were facing a common enemy. During the live stream, the bullet screen was filled with scolding. Even so, she had to go online on time to play the game. If not, she would feel guilty and didn't dare to face the public. This matter followed her into Xiangnan. Then, after the results of the competition were released, her attitude gradually improved. Luoluo really thought that she could prove herself this way. But now, from the looks of it, that wasn't the case. People would only see what he wanted to see. For a moment, Luoluo would think about what exactly she was persevering for. It was too difficult to admit that she was a lousy gamer. It was too difficult to just treat playing games as a money-making job. But so what? No one would believe that she truly loved it. The man looked at Luoluo's expression and became even more delighted. That's why I said that one shouldn't be too arrogant. Those things about you are no longer spread. Do you really think that you are a goddess that people are fighting over? But this time, before he could finish his sentence, a lazy voice interrupted him. However, she was interrupted by a lazy voice. She has always been a goddess. It was Bojo. She stuffed one hand into her pocket and walked over. Her handsome face didn't seem feminine at all. On the contrary, because of her messy silver hair and black windbreaker, she gave off an impactful aura. Chapter 1496. The man's face was filled with emotions. After all, he was used to being flattered. He had never encountered such a situation before. He could even hear the discussions around him. They seemed to be pointing at him. The man flew into a rage. Miss Luo, you are really interesting. Since you already have a man, why did you come out for a blind date? Bojo's eyes narrowed. She tugged the man's collar and smiled devilishly. Mr. Zhang's eyesight isn't good. Which eye of yours saw that I'm a man? But it is true. As a man, you aren't even as tall as a lady. It isn't strange for you to have such thoughts. Men hated it the most when people made an issue of their height. Right now, he wanted to tear them apart. Hearing the laughter around him, his voice deepened. These days are really sick. There are so many people who are neither male nor female. Come to think of it, for someone like Miss Luo, only someone like you is fit to be with someone like you. When Luoluo heard this, the look in her eyes changed. She took a step forward. But her wrist was suddenly pulled back. Her back was pressed into an embrace that smelled like research water. That smell was very familiar. Every time she encountered a weakness during training, he would hold her mouse and demonstrate a more accurate way to play. He would hold her mouse behind her back and demonstrate a more accurate way to play. Even though they were often together, they had never been so close to each other. Luoluo couldn't help but look at his slender fingers. Even though they were often together, they had never been so close to each other. When she lowered her head, her long hair landed on his wrist. Luo froze. Why was he here? How much did he hear? Luo didn't want him to see her weakness, regardless of which aspect it was. Is this what you meant by something? Xiao Jing was wearing a white coat. He must have come out of the research institute just now. When he turned his head, his side profile was handsome and cold. Luo felt the distance between his thin lips and hers. She paused for a moment. I thought it would be settled quickly. Xiao Jing looked at her with a deep gaze. He didn't say anything. He didn't let go of her wrist either. Instead, his gaze landed on the man in front of him. The man was arrogant at the start, but when he saw Xiao Jing's face clearly, he froze. It was not because of anything else, but because they were all in the medical profession. However, this was the difference. They all wanted to listen to each other's lessons. He became a professor at a young age. It was basically impossible for it to exist in the country. But there was such a person. He did medical research, but what was more impressive was that his ability to perform organ surgery had already reached the international level. The man didn't expect that a gamer would know such a person. It could be seen that he didn't pay attention to esports at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been oblivious until now. The person he wanted to curry favor with in real life was the captain of the Xiangnan team. Dr. Xiao. The man laughed dryly, trying to salvage something. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Chapter 1497. If the man's expression had been colorful just a moment ago, his expression was stiff and he couldn't help but smile. Anyone with eyes could see how big the gap between the two of them was. Even a passerby who didn't understand esports could see the difference in them. With such a handsome boyfriend, she didn't need to go on a blind date. Moreover, Xiao Jing was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed spectacles and a white coat. He looked like a doctor who had walked out of a manga. His aura was extraordinary. Luo, who was in his hands, looked like a typical handsome man and beautiful woman. They were a perfect match. Whether it was in terms of height or appearance, it gave people a pleasant feeling. It seemed as though only such a man could suppress Luo's beauty. Hence, it wasn't a sin for a girl to be beautiful. It depended on the person who matched it. After Xiao Jing finished speaking, he wasn't the only one standing there. Even Lin Feng, Yunhu, and Qin Mo walked over. Along with the silver-haired Bojiu, the few of them lined up in a row. There were people of all types. The scene was even more eye-catching than a gathering of celebrities. Just Qin Mo's face alone was enough to cause a wave of screams. It was a pity he was wearing a mask today. Even so, he attracted everyone's attention. Oh my god, that's almighty Qin. F***ck, I've lived long enough to see him. There's also Feng Yun and Little Spade. He's so handsome. I'm so happy to see so many male almighties in one go. Honestly, judging from his posture, he is definitely here to support Goddess Luo. I've been wanting to say this. What right does that blind date guy have to pick on our goddess? No one knows what happened in the past, but from the content of his words, it's obvious that he's a straight mama's boy. As a man, he has the cheek to ask a woman to earn money for him. He even said it in such a dignified manner and despised the woman's education. Goddess Luo's self-restraint is considered good. If it was me, I would have splashed coffee on his face. I really don't understand the thoughts of the people who believe in him. His face must be hurting from the slap when he sees me, almighty Xiao. The blind date guy listened to the comments around him and looked at the group of people opposite him. He felt his face burning. Because everyone standing there was a head taller than him. The blind man wanted to leave. She's the best sorcerer in Xiangnan, second to none. When she's competing overseas, even if there's constant pressure on her, she doesn't give up. It's all because she wants to see China's national flag fly in other places. When the referee neglects to play a Chinese song, she'll remind him that she's not just a game. She's the only female sorcerer in our country who's ranked in the world. Even if she doesn't work in this industry in the future, she's still worthy of respect. Forgive me for being blunt, but you have no right to criticize her. As these words rang in Lualua's ears, the unwillingness and grievances she felt just now seemed to disappear instantly. Your hard work and love. Chapter 1498. Now that things had escalated to such a stage, the blind date guy didn't have the face to stay there anymore. His back view looked as though he was escaping. Lin Feng tilted his head and said to Yunhu, "Have you ever heard Xiao Jing say so many words in the past?" No. Yunhu noticed that he was leaning over. He held on to the popcorn and moved closer to Lin Feng. Lin Feng himself didn't notice anything wrong. He muttered to himself, "We've fought so many matches, but I haven't heard him say many words. Today, this guy probably said a year's worth of words in one go. He must be anxious." Bo Jiu lifted her lips and joined in the gossip. How did he know that Luolua was here? Lin Feng straightened his back and revealed his canine teeth. Of course, I had the foresight to inform him. Well done. Bo Jiu sounded lazy. I didn't expect Senior Lin to be so smart. Lin Feng. This didn't sound like a compliment. Today's day was also very different from the rest. From the two at the start, there were 4 of them, and now, there were 6 of them. They stood there majestically. All of their looks were on point. It was indeed eye-catching. Hey, will we be recognized? Lin Feng asked again. Bo Jiu glanced over. Senior, you're really slow. F***CK, what should we do? Lin Feng didn't want to be chased. Besides, he wasn't in a good state today. Bo Jiu straightened. There won't be anyone staring at you if you check in. At the start, Lin Feng felt that it was a good idea. He felt the same when he sat down. But after 30 seconds had passed, Fang Jingji's expression changed. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. The people sitting in this row were all couples. Only he and Yun who were males. Lin Feng could feel the 2 girls in front of him turning back to look at them. He was too naive. How could he believe Little Spade's words? No one was staring at him. To make himself look less awkward, Lin Feng reached over to grab a handful of popcorn and stuffed it into his mouth. Unexpectedly, he grabbed Yunhu's hand. As if he had been electrocuted, Lin Feng's back suddenly stiffened. He explained, I just want to eat some popcorn." "I know." Yunhu said, but he didn't let go of his hand. Instead, he interlocked their fingers and hung by the side of the seat. The cinema was already very dark, so no one would have seen this scene. However, Lin Feng felt that the temperature between his fingers was extremely high. It was so high that he couldn't help but tilt his head. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was about to jump out. He did not know if it was because he was worried about being seen by others, or simply because he was holding his hand. In fact, none of the 6 people who came were watching the movie carefully. Qin Mo placed his hand behind her back, caressing her hair casually. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He turned and said in a low voice, "The next time we watch a movie, we'll do it together." MMH? Bo Jiu raised her eyebrows in confusion. Chapter 1499. Bo Jiu paused. She glanced over and coughed lightly. The Almighty was probably the only one who could say something like that with an indifferent face. Even though they weren't holding hands, Qin Mo unwrapped a candy and tapped it on Bo Jiu's lips. Luoluo found it hard to imagine that the arrogant person who looked down on everyone would do such a thing one day. There was not the slightest hint of incongruity. Even when the 2 of them were together, they looked like a good match. Bo Jiu was still wearing a black jacket. She exuded a punk vibe, looking extremely dashing. She looked at him for a while, and when her right hand dropped down, it brushed against Xiao Jing's shoulder. Xiao Jing tilted his head, still not saying much. Popcorn? Luo Luo shook her hand. After interacting with him for so many years, this was the first time she felt awkward. It was probably because of the blind date. She couldn't really look at that face. In fact, he was always by this person's side. It's really hard to fall for other men. In the past, he always wore a battle uniform, but now he was wearing a white coat. Luo Luo had always known the difference between the two of them. Ever since she found out about the other party's background, she no longer had any other thoughts. However, compared to his proud background, Lin Fan was not as arrogant as him. What she felt the most inferior about was her educational background. In the esports industry, there were very few people who could still play well after the age of 20. She had entered the circle too early. At that time, she probably loved it too much. In order to enter a professional team, she didn't even think about learning or not. When she really came into contact with it, she realized that whether it was the live streaming platform or the club, there would be a huge influx of people every time they recruited. She did play well, but in order to stand out in the crowd, a long period of high-intensity training was essential. Not only her, but most of the people were the same. The outside world probably didn't understand where their pressure came from. In a small city, the internet industry was not developed at all. No matter how things developed, in their eyes, you were just a lousy game. Compared to people of the same age who were already immersed in their studies, entering a professional team to play sports was simply a fool's dream. Back then, it wasn't like now, where they could only get a small basic salary. Because he hadn't officially joined the competition yet. Many people told themselves that they had to persevere. As long as they made it through, nothing was impossible. Luo Luo wouldn't underestimate the decisions made by some girls at that time. People who have not experienced it. He probably didn't understand. How much pressure did he have to bear? I only think of one thing, I want to get through this. When they were on the field, the fans would only see their brightest side. More than 10 hours of training every day. Every match would have a record of the data. You have to keep your form. Usually, there would be a total of 50 people trained, and in the end, only 1 or 2 would be left as substitutes. The others will give you the money for the train and let you go home. This was the truest life they had ever led. She and the person who could do scientific research while playing games, and even had a certain level of attainment in the medical field, were like two different worlds. She likes money too much. Without money, there was no sense of security. As for him, he had never been short of money. He was as clear and bright as the moon. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of confessing. He remembered when Xiangnan won the championship in the first national competition. Chapter 1500. When he finally arrived at the unfamiliar environment, he felt a chill run down his spine. Luo Luo felt that they weren't from the same world. It wasn't a big deal when they were in the team because they talked about games the most. There were times when she couldn't get a word in. But it was different in university. She saw a girl sitting beside him and they were talking about things she couldn't understand. And that was the first time she realized that he could smile outside of a competition. Luo Luo sat there and looked at the two of them. They had the same aura and one look and she could tell that they were from the same family. The girl exuded a gentle aura from head to toe. She was dressed elegantly and had a strong scholarly aura. She was completely different from her. Luo Luo never felt inferior, but at that moment, she experienced the difference between them. The girl smiled lightly and looked at her. Are you Senior's teammate? He's always strict with himself, but he's never picky with others. We were talking about medicine just now and neglected you. You're not upset, are you? No. Luo Luo stood there with her long and slender legs. She watched as the person walked out with his book. He glanced at her and asked, "Aren't you leaving?" Luo Luo followed behind him. Just like how she always followed behind him during competitions. She said impulsively, "Captain, what do you think about dating people in the industry? I'm not interested. The person didn't even turn his head. He didn't speak much. These 4 words made Luo understand one thing. Fortunately, she didn't confess excitedly. If that was the case, the situation would have been awkward. What's wrong? Xiao Jing glanced back and frowned. Luo shook her head and followed behind him. However, during the afternoon training, she wasn't in her best condition. She didn't even play well during the live stream. From that day onwards, she understood that as the only female member of the Xiangnan team, he took care of her because of his upbringing. He had never done anything intimate with her. At most, he would occasionally straighten her collar when she went on stage. He was her captain. But he was her captain. Even if she had thousands of thoughts in her heart, she couldn't break this balance. She was about to retire, so she couldn't do anything stupid. This way, they would have the chance to meet in the future and it wouldn't be awkward. Luo lowered her gaze and took a sip of the drink in her hand. On their left sat Feng and Yun, while on their right sat Bojiu and Qin Mo. Being stuck in the middle like this was really easy for people to misunderstand. Luo could only try her best to lean towards Bojiu. But for some reason, it attracted the attention of that person. He just looked at her and said nothing. This made Luo feel even more uncomfortable. In the captain's world, there was no such thing as a blind date. That was why he was sizing her up like this. Don't tell Zhao Sanpang about what happened today. If he finds out, the entire team will know. Xiao Jing looked at the chagrin on her beautiful face and said indifferently, "This is the first time you've lied." Huh? Luo couldn't keep up with her captain's thoughts. Xiao Jing didn't bother to say much and just tapped his wrist. Luo finally remembered that she had indeed found an excuse to not tell the truth because she had come for a blind date. Let's go. Xiao Jing stood up first. Luo thought that he probably didn't want to sit in such an ambiguous position. Lin Feng lowered his voice. Mute Xiao, where are you going? The movie isn't over yet. Go back and train. Xiao Jing's words were simple. Lin Feng tilted his head and said to Luo, "Is your captain so insensitive? It's probably his first time watching a movie with a girl. He doesn't even know how to place his hands." Luo raised her eyebrows. How do you know? At this moment, Lin Feng wasn't shy anymore. He lifted Yunhu's hand. Let me demonstrate. Luo paused. Stop fooling around, little submissive Lin. Lin Feng wanted to say something, but Bojiu opened her mouth at this moment. She supported her chin with her left hand. The black earrings on her ears were still glowing. Alright, Senior Lin, Luo and Almighty Xiao should have other things to do. When she mentioned other things, Bojiu's gaze was profound. Lin Feng waited for the two of them to leave before leaning over and asking, "Why did you let them go?" The cinema is a place to cultivate feelings. It can also enlighten Mute Zhao's stone-like brain and let him get a taste of love. As for cultivating feelings, you and Almighty Yun can do it together. Bojiu smiled devilishly. Sometimes, a stone needs more stimulation. Lin Feng sighed. Honestly, I didn't think that Luo liked Xiao Jing in the past. Aren't you the one she loves the most? You are her only almighty. Don't push the blame on me for your slowness. Bojiu gestured for him to return to Yunhu's side. Lin Feng was like an auntie in the industry, worrying endlessly. I've known them for so many years. Mute Xiao probably only treats Luo as his team member. He has never thought of her in that direction. Luo will probably beg for it, but no matter what, we can't let her go on blind dates again. Is there no one else in our industry? Wasn't there a fan who sent 10 cruises to Luo's live stream to express his love for her? Someone in the team I know has also said that Luo is his only goddess in the industry. Is that so? Bojiu caressed her chin with her fingers. Suddenly, she smiled suavely. Who is that person? Introduce them in the Almighty's WeChat discussion group and arrange a meeting. Lin Feng slapped his forehead. Why didn't I think of this? It's good to let Luo Luo meet him to calm her down. My friend is good at making people happy and he is handsome. He has liked Luo Luo for a long time. That's not bad. Bo Jiao seemed to have thought of something. She smiled. The better the person, the more exciting it will be. The noble Qin Mo didn't say a word. He just glanced sideways at a certain someone. Lin Feng frowned. Why do I feel that your smile doesn't have any good intentions? Am I? Bo Jiao was nonchalant. I'm contributing to Luolua's marriage. After all, she is one of the few esports players I like. Aren't you the same? Lin Feng looked serious. I like her the most among the female players. Is that so? Yunhu glanced at Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't realize what danger was. He nodded and said, yes. Yunhu's eyes dimmed. This was probably his insecurity. He was a straight man through and through. His love for girls would always be stronger than for boys. Even if it wasn't that kind of love. It made him jealous. Yunhu pinched a piece of popcorn with his fingers. He played with it. He was thinking about how he could make her his. Chapter 1501. The movie was still going on. After chatting for a while, Lin Feng was finally able to watch the content. Just as he decided to enjoy it and relax, Yunhu's voice rang in his ears again. Do you like him that much? This time, when he spoke, he was slightly closer to him. It seemed like he was taking the drink beside him, but in reality, he was asking him. Lin Feng wanted to nod instinctively. But he heard him say, you better think about it before you answer, boyfriend. Man, boyfriend or something. Just these 3 words made Lin Feng's heart skip a beat. He tilted his head, his gaze landing on that person's handsome face. He wasn't so naive that he couldn't read his expression. After coughing lightly, he corrected himself. It's not like, it's pure admiration for the opponent, just like how I admire Zhao Sanpang. Look at how fat he is, I admire him. After hearing this explanation, Yunhu felt slightly better. After putting down the drink, he didn't retract his hand. Instead, he held on to Lin Feng's hand like before. Hence, the straight Lin Xiaofeng tugged at his collar unnaturally from the start to the end. He still wasn't used to it. Other than the awkwardness, his heart kept beating wildly like an ADHD child. Yunhu could tell that. He knew that there were some things he needed to slowly get used to. He was well aware of how straightforward Lin Feng was. In the past, there had been people who had thoughts about him. They would always be kicked away by him with brute force. F***ck, look carefully, I'm a man. Isn't it disgusting? It was normal for a straight man to hate a gay man. It wasn't like what people said about straight man cancer. After all, no one was willing to be targeted by someone they couldn't accept. Hence, it was enough for Yunhu to reach this step. As for the rest, he would take it step by step. He wasn't someone to be trifled with. He had to have a platonic relationship. He wanted to have him. He had wanted it since puberty. Until now. Lin Feng didn't notice Yunhu's gaze. In order to divert his attention, he focused on the Almighty's WeChat discussion group. He was emphasizing that he was the one with the aura. World's most handsome fatty, your aura isn't even worth mentioning in front of Yunhu. Lin Feng, how about this, if you really feel pain, come to me and cry in my arms. I've already gotten over love. This world looks at one's face, not one's gender. I'm already so handsome, there's really no challenge. Unless someone takes a liking to my talent, that would be the true love of my life. Bo Jiao saw the opportunity and said, it will be difficult for you to find your true love. World's most handsome fatty. Little Spade, stay away from Qin Mo in the future. What have you learned? It was just a normal conversation. Suddenly, someone said, by the way, someone said that Luo Luo went on a blind date? Luo went to have a date with him. Bojio's voice was calm. What does it matter if it's real or fake? Luo has been single for so many years. Isn't it normal for them to meet each other for a meal? The man continued, so it's true. It seems like Luo's dark history was dug out. Bojio narrowed her eyes, the edges of her lips turning cold. 2 messages popped up in the group chat. The person had been kicked out of the group. Other than Chin Mo, who was sitting beside her, there was another person. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.